They can't like take a minute to set up. Hold on. I just realized another one. I just realized. Oh, where is it? I just remembered one. Hold on.
3, 2, 1, bro.
What's up, everybody? My name is Nick Murphy. I'm one half of the Brothers Murph, and this is Meta Game Minute. We are back from Dice Tower Con, and we're back in it, baby. This Meta Game Minute, I want to talk about gimmicks. Gimmicks in games. There's all sorts of gimmicks in games and gimmicks in life. Just little things that are, like, for the most part, kind of unnecessary, but they add to the game, usually. Or do they? And that's kind of what I want to talk about, is different gimmicks in games. A lot of times, gimmicks in games are like fan service. There's some kind of thing in there, and we're going to put this thing in there because this is iconic to whatever this theme is, so we have to have this in there. And it's one of those things where, like, I'm honestly pretty forgiving when it comes to gimmicks. I really don't mind. I honestly don't mind if they punch up the price a little bit more of a game, as long as, again, if it makes sense in the theme and it doesn't take away from the gameplay. If it's not a huge pain, and if it's not something that's really fiddly or something you have to do a whole bunch of stuff in the game too, just to satisfy that gimmick, then I'm fine with it. And there's a lot of games that have gimmicks. I feel like it's a kind of an ongoing thing. And some of them are really just 100% aesthetic, but some are actually integral to the play of the game. And one game that does that very, very well is the game Potion Explosion. Potion Explosion is a great game, kind of Candy Crush style, and it's got this big trough with these marbles in, and you pick a marble out and they all slide down and they explode and and you get all the stuff and you're making potions or whatever. And this is a game, the first time I saw it, I was honestly kind of against it, because I was like, look at this thing, like, this is just a gimmick, it's just a toy. And don't get me wrong, all these they're toys, they're games, they're toys. But it's like, I was just like, this isn't a game. Like, I didn't think there was a game in there. And then randomly we tried it one day, because Mike really wanted to try it. I really didn't have much interest. And it turns out, it's like, no, it's actually a really, really good game. And that gimmick isn't really that much of a gimmick. It's actually an integral part of the game. Like, I'm not really sure. I mean, I guess you could do it without the rolling, sliding track. But, like, it actually is integrated into the game and makes the game so much better, where if the game didn't have that, it would probably lessen the game a lot in terms of its enjoyment and its play factor. It's very, very cool. It's very, very fun. And so it's a gimmick that totally works and is really intricate, integrated, rather, into the game as a whole. And then there's some gimmicks that aren't really integrated at all, but they're just kind of there. We just got the King Domino expansion, Age of Giants. And Age of Giants comes with this thing. This is most of the box. It's right here. Now, this box right here is a way to hold the different tiles. So you can open it up like this, and it's got all the tiles in here face down. And then when it closes around the backside here, you can kind of just pull out tiles like this. Now, when I first saw this thing, I was like, okay, this is interesting. This is big, and this is interesting. And at first I was like, I don't know, because this is a gimmick. You don't need this. This is unnecessary. But at the same time, it is actually kind of nice because of the way it is in here. It actually does organize the tiles pretty well, and they're pretty easy to slide out of here. If you got this thing, but it was really hard and fiddly to get these out, I'd be against it, because then again, it's harming the game. It's making the game harder to play to satisfy that gimmick. But this one really doesn't. And again, it keeps a big pile of dominoes in one spot and keeps them all organized and keeps them from falling over. And so this little gimmick, although it's unnecessary, I'm with it. Now here's a gimmick that I love, and y'all know I love it because Mike and I talk about this game a lot, and it is super unnecessary, but and that's this little stage. This little stage is in History. History is a big game that we push a lot, and this stage is 100% a gimmick. And I'll go ahead and say right now, this is not necessary. This thing that flips around like this, you didn't need this. You didn't need this. Now, I love it, and I'm aware that I love it, but this, you could have done without. It is just, The production value of Bombix games are bananas, and this is a very overproduced game. Now again, it doesn't take away from the game. It doesn't make the game harder to play. You're just placing your little managers, little roosters on here, and then this flips to show when the king wants a comedy or a tragedy, and it's got this little marker thing up here, which is cool. But it's like, it doesn't take away from the gameplay, and that's what really, really matters with a gimmick. Is it cool? Sure. Is it pretty? Sure. Does it take away from the gameplay? That's the real question. So now I'm going to show you a gimmick that, in my opinion, does not work and really detracts from the gameplay. And that is a gimmick in Tiny Epic Quest. Tiny Epic Quest is a great little game in the Tiny Epic series. I like it a lot. We've played it a few times. It's very, very fun. But it has this little thing. This is an item rack, because in the game you have all these really cool little items. You have these little items that your meeples can have, and they go so your meeples like holding a little sword, or holding a little shield, or holding like a shepherd's the curly thing, the hook. I don't, what are those shepherd things called? Put in the comments. The hook. What's the hook thing called for shepherds? But it has this, and all of these you're supposed to put on this little item rack, and then you're continually taking them off throughout the game to give them to various meeples and stuff. This, I will never play with this thing. So you have to disassemble it each time, and then you have to put the things on this thing each game, and it takes a really long time, and it's super difficult. And then you constantly have to like try and pick this thing up and like take the thing you want off of it, and it falls apart constantly. And this is a gimmick that doesn't work. This is a gimmick that makes the game harder to play. Sure, is it cool? Yeah, but it takes away from the whole thing. The aesthetic value and the kind of cool, like, oh, look how cool this is, part of it takes away from the gameplay because it's so fiddly, because it's so difficult. So this is a gimmick that I don't think works, and we don't play with this. So that's my feelings on gimmicks. I actually really like gimmicks. I really like when they add thematic value or aesthetic value. I like that a lot, but they can't detract from the gameplay. So let me know how you feel about gimmicks. What gimmicks do you really love? What gimmicks don't work for you at all? Do you love them all? Do you hate them all? Let me know in the comments down below. And until next time, whether you got gimmicks up the wazoo or no gimmicks at all, just give me cubes and nothing else. Remember, the more meta, the more better. Click them! Click all these things! They're here. Click the videos. Click the videos. Responsible for Restoration Games. Click that link down below to see them. Click all our social media. Click. Too many videos. Too much stuff. What am I gonna do? Too much stuff. I'm drowning all this stuff.